Okay, good afternoon, Sarah, and thanks very much for sparing some time to have a chat with me today. And many of the members will know you very well, but if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself for those who don't, and your job and a bit about your background, that'd be great.
Yeah, certainly. Be delighted to, Kevin. So she said I'm Sarah Leeson. I've been an occupational hygienist for around 30 years now, and proud to say I've been a member of BOHS for the vast majority of that time. I'm a chemist by background, and was fortunate enough that immediately after graduating, I had the opportunity to move into occupational hygiene. And I started on my professional development journey via the PCERT route, preliminary certificate route. I know there will be quite a few people out there who, like me, have been around long enough who will remember the PCERTs. Since then, I obtained the Diploma of Professional Competence, and I'm now delighted to be able to say that I am a chartered occupational hygienist.
Absolutely excellent.
My job is a regional occupational hygiene manager for a global petrochemical company. And this provides me with the opportunity to experience firsthand many varied operational areas in which the occupational hygienists in the company make a real difference to ensure a healthy working environment for the workforce. Obviously not this year, seeing so many of those places firsthand, but so be it.
Fewer early mornings and sort of international flights.
That's it. Yeah, so none of those since March.
And you've been in the role of registrar now as well, so perhaps you can tell us a little bit about what registrar involves. And this is registrar for the Faculty of Occupational Hygiene. So many members will know a little bit about this, but your perspective on what it's all about and what it's for would be great, and what the role is.
Yeah, certainly. So the Faculty of Occupational Hygiene is essentially the professional body of BOHS. So as well as being responsible for the examination system, the faculty plays a vital role in establishing, developing and maintaining the professional standards of competence for all faculty members. So I joined the Faculty of Occupational Hygiene Committee back in 2013, when the then registrar was advertising for more volunteers to join what was then the board, to expand the membership. And then I joined that in 2013, and then was delighted to be elected as registrar in 2019. So as a registrar, I now have a committee of 5 other elected positions, and the chief examiner and several people from head office also attend the committee meetings. It's fair to say in the 7 years I've been on the committee, the level and scope of activity has increased. I won't make a comment about how it's increased exponentially over the last year, Kevin. And I hope that many faculty members who are listening to this will have read the updates on the committee working groups, which we post regularly on the faculty e-bulletin. In particular, in recent years, the committee's focused on promoting the chartered status, and I'll come back to that again a little bit later on, improving the current membership offering to faculty members, improving the development progression pathways, and driving up the standards expected of consultants offering occupational hygiene services. And all of that could not be done without a very strong and dedicated team of volunteers on that FOH committee.
And it really, I mean, obviously occupational hygiene has been around in this country since the 50s, and it's not one of your regulated professions, but the faculty in particular, following on from British Institute of Occupational Hygiene, has really been at the centre of this move to get the professional status of this, really sort of encapsulated, and as the chartered body, the only body in the country that really leads on professional hygiene standards. No, that's really at the heart of what you guys have been doing, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. Yeah, and as you know, BOHS is the only professional occupational hygiene society globally which offers chartered status to its members, and that's something we are all very proud of.
And it's amazing that, I mean, that impact, that international leadership that we're able to provide, and in terms of support. But I mean, obviously, we sort of faced a kind of a Janus-like two-way challenge, that because it's not a restricted activity, anyone can kind of hang their shingle out to do occupational hygiene, and Amazon's got sound meters and all sorts of things. So people, like a lot of professions, the real challenge is actually this: the profession seems to be actually more and more scientific, more and more challenging, then more and more diversity. So in terms of the faculty, we've got lots of challenges for occupational hygiene and the demands. And so what do you see as the real challenges for the profession as as things move forward?
Excellent question, and a lot of challenges, I would say. So challenges we're already seeing which need to be addressed from a sort of an internal perspective is improving the professional progression of our members. So we have a lot of hygienists out there who take the modules, maybe 1 or 2 modules, and stay there. But so we're keen on how to ensure they can progress from the modules to the certificate and then to the diploma. And if anyone needs reminding, the route to being able to say you're a chartered occupational hygienist is once you have obtained that diploma. So that really should be the golden goal which our hygienists want to aspire to. In a similar line, the faculty is also concerned about the lack of occupational hygiene training available out there apart from the BOHS training. So many people will know there is no occupational hygiene undergraduate degree course anymore. I think there's maybe 1 master's, so the ability for people to be able to obtain occupational hygiene and further in higher education has gradually diminished over the years, and that's something which is a real challenge and one we want to be addressing. The other challenge, and one you touched on with the professionalism, is improving the competency and the standards which people expect of anyone who's practicing occupational hygiene. And this is something we're working very closely with the HSE on. Faculty has done a lot of work on this already. I'll do a little plug here, if that's all right. Hopefully people listening to this will be aware of 2 excellent publications freely available on the BOHS website for everyone, which were produced last year, 2019, in order to promote the standards expecting of everyone practicing occupational hygiene. So first of these was the FOH Good Practice Guide for Consultants, and the second document which was produced is the Buyer's Guide for Occupational Hygiene Services. Then sort of a little bit more sort of closer to home, a challenge which everyone is facing at the moment and which will continue well into next year is obviously the restrictions on our normal sort of working life brought about from the pandemic, and that's got a knock-on effect on budgets being slashed, companies being much more concerned with where they spend their money. From a BOHS perspective, I am so proud, and I'll do a plug here for the qualifications team, at head office, the speed in which they were able to respond to the change in the restrictions earlier this year and adapt at really short notice to ensure the consistency of all of our examinations processed through this year, and that has been phenomenal. In addition, our approved training providers also responded to be able to convert their normal face-to-face classroom training to virtual training. So despite everything this year and the challenges that's brought, we've been able to maintain and continue having people trained in occupational hygiene and the other training provided by BOHS. And I think that's credit to everyone involved in that activity.
And I mean, no, one of the things, anyone who's an occupational hygienist, I think, will probably recognise the sort of sheer diversity of opportunity. It can be an international route. I mean, the things that colleagues from the board talk about doing, everything from sort of being in sort of high security environments through to cupcake manufacture and everything in between. So it's a really varied and vibrant thing. And one of the things I think is that's really interesting for me coming into sort of work with the society is how accessible it is to progress, unlike virtually any of the other chartered scientific bodies where, you know, you really have to do an undergraduate degree. You know, this is really a sort of a profession where you can progress regardless of how you got into occupational hygiene. And the faculty is doing quite a lot to sort of really engender that, isn't it? And that just shows that there's tremendous opportunities, really, for developing occupational hygiene as a sort of science and a practice and discipline in a sustainable way, but also really developing our members. It's anyone can get into occupational hygiene in one sense, but actually anyone can really develop to very interesting levels. So can you tell me a bit more about where you see the opportunities lying, you know, in the future? We're looking at strategy and strategic. Where do you think the opportunities lie for the faculty and for BOHS?
Well, that's a good question. And you know what you've said there about anyone being able to move into occupational hygiene is absolutely true, and that's why it's quite a unique profession in that way. But it also brings sort of a certain level of risk and danger with that, because as I think you mentioned right at the beginning, it's not a regulated profession. You know, occupational hygienist is not a protected job title. To say you're a chartered occupational hygienist that is protected, but anyone theoretically could go out there, pick up a sound level meter and say, I can come and do a noise survey. And that's really one of the areas, you know, I've touched on it before, that faculty sees as a challenge, but also an opportunity as to how we can broaden the umbrella to make sure that all of these people who have an interest in occupational hygiene, but may not want to move completely through the profession to become, you know, certified or get the diploma, but at least if they have done one or two modules, they come under the umbrella of the faculty. So at least they're then encompassed by our code of ethics, which the faculty has, which all faculty members must abide by, which lays down sort of the minimum professional standards we expect of our members. So our challenge and an opportunity at the same time is to make sure everyone out there practicing occupational hygiene, be it a little bit of their job, they're a safety specialist, but they do a little bit of hygiene, to people like myself, you know, full-time employed as an occupational hygienist, to make sure all of those come under the auspices of the faculty and they're therefore covered by the code of ethics.
Yeah, and no, we're talking a lot about professionalism, and I think, you know, what strikes me is that this is a health-related scientific activity. The decisions, the recommendations, the input, the control, the risk management is directly impacting on life and death issues. It's not, you know, it's not a sort of as cuddly and cozy and sort of background as, you know, until this year. I think most people, if they thought about hygiene, they thought it was, you know, an aspect almost of good manners and being well presented. Whereas COVID has almost highlighted that hygiene, you know, poor hygiene can kill an economy and it can kill people. And, no, the importance of professionalism and the importance of what the faculty is doing in terms of driving that through in this, you know, combination of science and health is just so vital, isn't it? And we've been looking at strategic aims for the faculty about how to really make sure that's sort of driven higher. And, you know, so we've been talking about these things in general. How do you think the new strategy that we got for the faculty reflects on this really quite interesting position we find ourselves?
Well, I'm glad you're asking about the strategy, because, you know, members should know, the BOHS has had a strategy, 5-year strategy over a number of years, and we'll have another one from 2021 going forward. Up until this year, the faculty, and I'm talking here about the Faculty of Occupational Hygiene, but there's also the asbestos faculty. We had a lot of activity going on, but we didn't actually have a defining strategy. And my thanks go out to you, Kevin, for sort of igniting this idea with us. So, I'm delighted to say, we've had a virtual away day recently, and really fleshed out a 5-year strategy starting in 2021 for the faculty. And that's really going to be looking at, professional development, some of the areas around education we've talked about, and improving the competency of hygienists. The strategy is currently still being finalised, but certainly I'm hoping by the beginning of January that will be available and will be advertised and sent out to all faculty members. What I can share at the moment is the mission. So that is to provide leadership for UK's occupational hygiene professions. And the vision we've set with our strategy is that occupational hygiene services are accessible, high quality, and provided by suitably qualified and capable individuals.
And that's so important. I mean, we've seen prosecutions this year of people who just aren't meeting the mark and really causing, real harm to individuals, real cost to business. So, it's a really important vision, and it's not sort of motherhood and apple pie. This is important stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talk about the prosecutions, and this is where, I'm delighted that the faculty in BOHS is closely working with the HSE. So we have the code of ethics I referred to earlier. There's a process in place that anyone out there can lodge a complaint to the BOH, but to the faculty, if they think somebody is not acting to the professional standards we would expect. And as long as that person is a member of the faculty, we can, investigate that. And we've had a couple of those this year, which was, I think, the first in the 7 years I've been on the faculty. We know we've already got a few more in the pipeline. And I think this is where it's going to be a little bit of chicken and egg. While we strive to improve the competency of everyone providing occupational hygiene services, there'll almost be that sort of increased awareness of what is expected, what is the standard we expect of everyone, and therefore potentially an increase in complaints as people actually identify that, actually, I don't maybe that person isn't giving me all the right level of advice. So it's gonna be interesting going forward on this one, Kevin.
And it's great that people are beginning to sort of see that for the preventative workplace health considerations that we deal with, that they can reach out to us, not only the sort of people who are complaining, but also people who are looking for better advice, better guidance, etc. Because that's a real strength of having the faculty, all of this expertise and knowledge pulled together. But I'm going to be cheeky. Obviously, the sort of we're not quite ready to sort of reveal the finalised strategy. But what can members expect to see coming down the pipeline fairly soon? I know how busy you guys have been working on different things. Well, give us a teaser trailer, please, Sarah.
All right. So short term. The FOH Good Practice Guide for Consultants, which I mentioned before, that's being updated and I think is more or less ready to be launched now. And that's minor updates to that, but primarily it has a new section to provide more guidance to consultants on how to do a self-audit to make sure they are following the standards we would expect. And some of that has come out of the complaints which I mentioned earlier. There's also going to be, and I think this is more or less ready to be published and is actually being trialled with a few students at the moment. There's really new and updated guidance for those students wanting to progress to the diploma. So much clearer guidance, some checklists, so people can sort of do a self-assessment to see if they're reaching the standards expected of the diploma. And the diploma is the highest standard we can obtain in the UK, but the updated guidance is to take away some of that sort of mystery. Well, how do I put together the PEP? It's not rocket science. This is how you do it in sort of simple bite-sized steps. So I'm really excited about that coming out. So that those two items are sort of, as I said, near completion, should be out very early in the new year. Longer term under the strategy, and this will be a new working group the committee will set up, is we're looking to develop partnerships with higher and further education bodies, and that's really to look at supporting the development of occupational hygiene at that higher level and making it more available as a career path. I jokingly say when I meet up with a lot of my colleagues, a lot of us accidentally fell into occupational hygiene. We're glad we went down that route, but there's not many people out there who sort of deliberately choose a career in occupational hygiene, and it would be nice if we could have that progression path formalized a little bit more. And certainly we'll be, with the strategic aims, once we share those at the beginning of the year, we'll be sharing progress with our members, doing updates in the faculty e-bulletin, maybe on the exposure magazine, using social media a lot more with BOHS. Certainly there'll be a lot more outputs from the strategy to come as we move into 2021.
And you know me, I'm always cheeky. And one of the things you were saying about people who fall into occupational hygiene, and we've built this amazing qualifications route, which is so brilliant on the technical side. But there are quite a lot of occupational hygienists who sort of moved through their career. They either came in through the formal university routes or their scientific base. And I think we're looking at that, aren't we, in terms of the faculty, about how we can get chartered status for those people who got quite important and senior roles, but perhaps not on such a technical side of occupational hygiene. Would it be unfair of me to ask any more about that?
No, I can't provide any more detail because it is really sort of the storming and norming phase. But absolutely right. Over the years, in line with how industry has changed, the typical aspects of occupational hygiene are shifting. There's new disciplines which we're needing to engage with and include within our qualification system. So yes, we are looking to see how people who maybe aren't sort of the textbook sort of technical 6 modules industrial occupational hygienist still can get credit and acknowledgement for the work and the studies they have done. So yeah, more to come on that, but it's certainly an area where we need to make sure those people are included rather than sort of sitting out there on the periphery.
And that's really, I mean, one of the things I find so impressive about the faculty is that it's constantly striving for both the best professional standards, but to be inclusive and not to have a kind of closed-minded approach. And I've got one more question, and you cannot answer this. I mean, what I find phenomenal, I came from higher education, as you know, where you actually have to pay in blood for every ounce of expertise that you get. That's the commodity. Knowledge is a commodity, and the faculty is a group of volunteers, etc. The technical input, the quality of these, from technical guidance or professional guidance, all produced by volunteers. So, I mean, that's a lot of giving of time and effort. You've stuck with it. What have you got out of it yourself? Other than the satisfaction of making a lot of other people very happy and more secure in their job, what have you got yourself out of this long engagement you've had?
The engagement with the faculty committee
as a volunteer within society. Yeah.
The knowledge you're helping the professional development of other individuals. I think we haven't touched on it here, but BOHS recently launched the mentoring scheme. And I signed up for that. And, the interactions I have with my mentee are just so interesting, and I'm doing one little bit to hopefully make a better hygienist come through. And there's so many volunteering opportunities within BOAHS. So obviously the last 7 years I've been heavily involved with the faculty. I was on what was council, now it's the BOHS board many years ago. I was on a communications team, and I think it's all that networking with like-minded people and seeing opportunities for how we can improve the profession, make it more accessible to other people. And every hour spent, I think, as a volunteer is just so meaningful. You give a lot, but you get a lot back as well. And I would say with the faculty committee, so there's, including myself, there's 6 elected positions on the board. So we're all volunteers. We all have very busy day jobs. We've actually realised with the amount of extra work coming the way of the faculty, we're probably stretching ourselves a little bit too thin at the moment. So coming up for next year, we've actually we'll be looking to get agreement to increase the number of elected positions on the faculty board by 2. So anyone interested in joining the faculty out there, there will be a call out for people to volunteer when we come round to the AGM. And as I said, there will be 2 extra positions on the faculty board this year.
And what's fascinating
faculty committee, sorry, going back into faculty committee.
and what's fascinating is that there are always people volunteering, and it seems to be sort of so rewarding. I find it strange, having worked in so many other professional bodies, that there is that desire to engage, and it seems to be very fun. I mean, it's a great, as someone from head office, it's just such a great vibe working with the boards and the committees. It's sort of, it doesn't seem to be a kind of a dry or sort of overly procedural thing. There's a lot of warmth and humanity there.
There is, and I think obviously we weren't able to have the face-to-face conference, but it only takes anyone appearing at seeing the conference, the networking there. Everyone is very almost like-minded. We have the same approach in our lives, that you go into occupational hygiene wanting to make a difference in the conditions of the workforce, be it whatever industry you work in, or if you're a consultant. And I think that just, I don't know, it just brings people together, and you want to be able to transfer that knowledge to others. And a lot of the times the only way or the best way of doing that is via volunteering your time.
And that's, I mean, that's, it's the British Occupational Hygiene Society, and there is that real sense of society. Yeah. And I have to say, you're such a brilliant example of professionalism within the field, and I know that from what a lot of other people do. But really a great example of what the society is doing, and I'm very grateful for not only your time talking here, but the work that you're doing as registrar. I know I keep you very busy. So.
It's my pleasure, Kevin, it really is.